I want to take a moment to compliment and thank Albertans for their calm and resilient approach to managing the challenges and disruptions that are affecting everyone. And in particular, let me give a shout out to a lot of folks that we don't give enough thought to or credit to, who make things run in our society and whose roles are so important as we face this crisis together. To the truckers who continue to bring food and critical supplies to our stores and our homes. To the grocery store staff who stock the shelves and make sure that we continue to have the supplies that we need. To janitorial staff who are busier than ever, helping to maintain high levels of sanitation from workplaces all across the province. To all of them and so many others, to hundreds of thousands of unsung heroes, thank you for what you're doing to help keep us safe, to help keep Alberta functioning during challenging times. I have a few announcements related to new actions by the Government of Alberta to limit the spread of this disease, including among the most vulnerable groups in our society. And I'll also provide an update on further actions we're taking to deal with the extraordinary economic impact of the outbreak and the simultaneous oil price crash, including actions to protect jobs in the economy and specific new measures to protect our critical energy sector. First, I'm very pleased to announce that starting next week, the Ministry of Children's Services will begin reopening selected licensed childcare centres in order to provide care for core service providers, starting with healthcare workers. Centres will be chosen based on proximity to healthcare facilities and will be reopened in a phased approach. Centres chosen for reopening will be limited to 30 people, including staff, and will have to adhere to strict health guidelines. Children's Services will start contacting those centres for reopening today. Right now, core service providers, including healthcare and municipal critical infrastructure workers, will be at the top of that list, and we will then begin to add other essential services such as police officers, firefighters, correctional service workers, and other impacted sectors. Parents will be notified through their employer if they qualify to send their kids to newly reopened centres. All other licensed childcare centres are to remain closed for the time being. Licensed day homes may remain open, but are limited to 6 children each, not including the operator's own children. I would also ask that if you're a parent who is afforded a childcare space, that you only use it if you have no other way to ensure that you can get to your critical job. We only have a certain number of spaces that are being opened to ensure the functioning of essential services. We all need to operate within this new normal, which means using only the resources that we absolutely need. Next, I'd like to make an important announcement about additional support and protection for the homeless, some of the most vulnerable in our society. This morning, the Emergency Management Committee of Cabinet decided to support an expansion of the network of homeless shelters across Alberta to help them cope safely with the threat of the COVID virus. Implementation of shelter pandemic plans is underway across the province. In Edmonton, Hope Mission and Mustard Seed have identified community spaces to allow extra space between individuals required for social distancing and surge capacity. The Expo Centre will be activated as a location for people with illness. Measures will also be put in place to allow for a separate area of surge capacity for those who are not showing signs or symptoms of COVID-19. Staffing will be coordinated by Homeward Trust and with health services provided by Alberta Health Services. In Calgary, the Mustard Seed and Calgary Drop-In Centre have identified additional sites to meet the shortfall due to social distancing. The City of Calgary and the Drop-In Centre are working with Community and Social Services of Alberta to book hotels for additional surge capacity space. In Red Deer, the Mustard Seed will continue to operate their shelter in their existing location. Safe Harbor will relocate to a larger consolidated centre effective immediately, which can accommodate social distancing and surge capacity. In Lethbridge, the shelter is repurposing space in the current location to allow for the new additional requirements, and the City of Lethbridge has identified other space for surge capacity. In Grand Prairie, the shelter is currently seeking alternate locations. And all of these expanded homeless shelters will be supported by the additional $30 million of support that our government announced earlier this week, part of our $60 million COVID Civil Society Fund. I want to thank the mayors of Calgary, Edmonton, Red Deer, Lethbridge, and other communities for working so closely with us, and Minister Sani for acting so quickly to ensure that we do everything possible for the safety of Albertans who do not have a home. Let me now turn to the latest actions that the Alberta government is taking to protect and sustain our economy through this crisis. First of all, by saying that the price war instigated by OPEC and Russia in the midst of this global pandemic highlights the need for Canada, the United States, and other democratic nations to treat energy resources as key strategic assets that are essential to our national economic security. The actions I am announcing today and in the coming days are designed to ensure that our domestic energy industry gets through the price collapse and will assure Canada's security of supply in the long term. First, the Government of Alberta is waiving the industry levy for the Alberta Energy Regulator for 6 months. This action will provide industry relief totaling $113 million. Second, we are extending the term of mineral agreements expiring in 2020 by 1 year. This will bolster certainty in the industry by providing time to raise capital and develop future plans. These actions are in addition to others that we've recently undertaken to protect jobs and incomes in the energy sector, including the recently announced $100 million loan to the Orphan Well Association that will create up to 500 jobs in remediating and completing wells while reducing environmental liabilities, and many other actions we've taken, including the deferral on corporate income taxes, and more measures will follow shortly. Finally, I'd like to announce the formation of the Economic Recovery Council to be chaired by Dr. Jack Mintz. Its task is to think about and provide really practical advice to the Alberta government on the path through this economic crisis, and to think about the mid and long-term strategy for recovery and diversification. To be honest, to be blunt, ministers in our government and senior officials are focused on hour-by-hour and day-by-day crisis management. And that is why we are calling on some of our most respected leaders in business and civil society to help point the way forward for the emergence of Alberta's economy in the long term. And I'll just close by saying this. These are extraordinarily busy people, and they are giving of their time freely with no compensation or expectation of it. And this is an example of what I hope we will see coming through this time of adversity. More and more Albertans stepping up to the plate to help their neighbours. And that spirit can be expressed by just going next door to an isolated senior and seeing if they need groceries or pharmaceuticals, by being kind to people in the grocery store, by looking out for your neighbours, and of course by following the advice of Dr. Hinshaw in terms of our public health protocols.